Good evening, everyone. Hope we're all doing well. Welcome. We're back for another pre-lockout chat, round 13, the second bye, which is the easy bye, is upon us, and Fantasy Fanatics are back. Tim, mate, how are you?
Good, mate. Self?
Yeah, good, mate. Preparing for another round of footy, mate. How are you feeling ahead of this easy, quote-unquote, easy bye with only the two teams, Gold Coast and Geelong on bye?
I guess it's the easiest week, right? So we're not really worried about too many red dots. Still worried about round 15, but starting to see a few kind of rookies raise their head, a couple of interesting, like mid-prices raise their head. So, while a week or two ago, I think we were really desperate. I don't know, it's still hard to say, but I think it's looking maybe a fraction better than it was maybe a week or two ago. So, but yeah, look, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, after this round, when we've got the defenders in round 14 and the forwards in round 15. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, Bars.
Yep. Yeah. So, how many have you got? Have you got the 22 on field this week?
I do have 22 on field. Not 22 are playing. 20 of them are playing, but I think Chesser will come on as a sub. For 21. Not that I think it'll be, a worthwhile score, but I'm certainly happy with that.
Yeah. I've got 22, but then I've also got Winhager 66, Wilmot, and I believe it'll be the Pedler Van and probably Pedler on emergency first because he plays that first game. So I'm looking good this week. So hopefully a good scoring week for me. But my VC didn't go too well last week with Goulden, only 83. Didn't get any midfield time, which was really surprising with Parker and Mills out. I thought, he'd go in the midfield, but instead they put forwards in the midfield in Papley and Heaney. So that was interesting. But yeah, so hopefully captain will go well. We'll speak about them soon. We got a special guest on for the first half hour or so of the show. Holmesy, mate, you got us?
Yeah, boys. How are we getting on? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. All good, mate. Thanks for jumping on. How are you looking ahead of round 13, mate?
Oh, yeah, not too bad, Bales. Traded in Jack Steele last night, which didn't go quite to plan, but I'm actually not too unhappy with the move. So everything's pretty locked. So
yeah, nice second half.
Another good. Yeah, it was a great second half, wasn't it? Not sure what happened to the first half.
I think he got a bollocking at half time. I heard someone say he got a bollocking at half time. I don't know whether that was just a guess or whether it was actually witnessed or whatever, but yeah, who knows?
It's actually the Holmesy curse. I traded in Brad Crouch earlier on this year, and the first half that he had in my side, he put up a 23. So apparently they're not allowed to have more than 20 in the first half when I bring them in.
Well, Crouch had a good run last night, didn't he?
Yeah, he looked good, didn't he? Yeah, it just sucks that he has those games where he doesn't really look too interested. But yeah, last night he was unbelievable.
Yeah, well, fun enough, I'm actually Crouch is, after one game, still 7 games to go this round, but Crouch is probably my early pick for my upgrade target next week because I think he looked really good for a guy that can average over 110 for a period of time, which we know. So I'm definitely looking at him. So go through our trades and see what you guys are doing. So, Holmes, I'll start with you, mate. What are you looking to? Obviously, you said your Jack Steele move was locked in. Who'd you move out for him, and what are your other 2 trades?
Yeah, so I ended up going Fiorini down to Matt Johnson, which allowed me to get Stocker up to Jack Steele. And then I'm also going Will Day to Lockie Neal. So just trying to fix up my buy structure a little bit and just kind of jump ahead of it. It might end up being Sheasel, actually. I still have to have a look around. I can edit that trade to see which way will fit my buy structure better, but it'll be out of those 2.
Yeah, so Lockie Neal, you're obviously pretty keen on him, bringing him in. What do you reckon he can do back half? Because obviously he's been a very up and down the first half of the year, but he did put 3 tons in a row and 4 of his last 5 been hundreds and a good run.
Yeah, he's got a good run, Bales, but as you know, beggars can't be choosers. I haven't exactly had the best year, so cash gen's quite tight. So it's more a case of what I can realistically get up to without really wrecking my team. But I think with the way that the Brisbane midfield is gelling and with the run that they've got coming up, it wouldn't surprise me if he could, maybe be around that sort of 105 mark for the next sort of 5 to 6 games, and then who knows? Maybe look to offload him there. Maybe he hangs around long enough. So I'm comfortable with that move at this stage.
Yeah, perfect. And Tim, mate, what are you looking at doing? Your 3 moves? Did any locked in last night, or you still got your 3 up your sleeve to play with?
Still 3 up my sleeve. But look, I've kind of touched on it over the past couple of weeks a little bit. But I'm kind of trying to zig when everyone is zagging, kind of thing. I mean, I know we've heard a few people out there talk about make sure you've got plenty of green dots and things like that. And I've kind of approached this buy rounds a little bit more aggressively. We've got an extra round, an extra 3 trades in the buy round period. So I'm actually been trying to run as close to 18, but having as many primos as I possibly can. So yeah, I am a bit nervous about how round 15 is going to work out, but that includes one of my trade-ins this week in Josh Fay, who held his spot. So he'll come in for me for Darcy Wilmot. So that'll bank a couple hundred K in cash there. And then I'll also go from Alwyn Davey to Matthew Johnson as well. So I'm really happy with Johnson as a bring in, trade in. And then Zeeble will go out for me and I'll be bringing in Andrew Brayshaw. So look, Josh Fay, I'm a bit nervous about. I mean, he's on a buy around 15 anyway, but I'm really happy with Johnson and Brayshaw coming into my side. So I'm feeling, really good about those trades.
Yeah, I think Johnson's the best downgrade option if he can pay up a little bit more, and he's obviously had his buy already, so he'll play. Looks like he'll play at least the next 3 weeks, based on sort of how he's looked in the Freo team. So Holmesy, obviously being a Freo man yourself, do you see him staying in the side throughout the buys and past the buys?
Yeah, look, it's tough. Obviously, no Jago O'Meara this week means that there's a midfield spot opened up for him, and he was the sub a couple of games ago, and he kind of got his opportunity when Michael Walters went out. So he's always going to be on that sort of borderline, that sort of 23 to 21 type player in that side. But with the way he's been playing, it seems to me that they're pretty keen to fit him into the side any way they can. So I'm pretty comfortable with his spot in the side, at least for the short term.
Yeah. The positive I saw from the Freo team this week was that they could have just brought in a Will Brodie straight in for O'Meara, but they decided to bring in Henry, who's more a winger and can play in the forward line. They kept, obviously, Johnson. So it seems like they want to keep Johnson in the side, and Brodie looks to be on the out at the moment, and he's racking up sort of 30 touches a week in the waffle. So be interesting to see what happens with him moving forward. My trades this week, one was locked in last night, and I'm pretty happy with it, actually. I went Rory Atkins down to Marcus Windhager. I knew he had the 73 break even or 78, whatever it was, and I was happy to pounce on him because I just thought he had the best job security, and I tried to get as many green dots as possible and put up a 66, which I'm pretty happy with. He won't go down much at all, and I think his break even might even slide back down in the 20s or the 30s. So I'm pretty happy with that. And then my other 2 trades, taking a bit of Tim's logic and I know Cal trying to hit sixes and that. So trying to be a bit aggressive. I'm going Zebra and Shees out. The Shees Bull are gone. For me, I don't know if I was the one that started that, but I'll take it if I was the one that started it. Shees Bull is out, and I'm bringing in Andrew Brayshaw and Jordan Dawson. So most people probably think you could go Sarong or Neil or could have gone to Sinclair last night, but I just want to try and capitalise on Dawson's great matchup against the Eagles this week, and I've wanted Dawson in my side all year, and I can finally jump on him. Plus, I've only got the 4 primos on by next week, so I can afford to bring him in. So, boys, what are we looking at doing with our VCs and captains? So obviously went Gordon last night, didn't get the job done for me in a good matchup, and I'm going Tim English tonight, captain, with a good matchup against Port at Marvel. I expect him to go quite nicely. But Tim, mate, what are you looking at doing with your VC and C?
I haven't actually decided. I'm glad you got onto this next. I know we normally do it at the end of the lockout chat, but I really wanted to get Holmesy's opinion on this because I'm really kind of torn. I've got English tonight as a possible VC. I think Laird's going to go really well against the Eagles tomorrow, especially after his tag game last week as well.
Not worried about O'Neill going to Laird. That's my only slight concern. It just seems to me that
O'Neill, as a tagger, nah, not really. Look, Brayshaw, I'm a bit worried about with the weather. But then you've also got Taranto as another possible option, and then of course we've also got Merritt on Sunday. So I'm a bit like, I'm not sure. I feel like I've got too many options to choose from.
I'll go to Holmesy now, but I would just say with Merritt, I'd cross him off. I'm really concerned that Ed Kernow's been brought into the team to tag him, so I'd cross him off. But Holmesy, mate, what are your thoughts with Tim's options there?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go Rory Laird at this stage. Your boy, Bales, I think he's probably primed for a bounce back. I hadn't actually thought about that Xavier O'Neill tag, but I'm sick of worrying about tags this year and not acting on it, and then the tag's not eventuating. So I think I'll just lock in Rory Laird as my VC, or potentially Dawson. I think someone from that game's probably going to get the job done regardless. And then, I've got Andy Brayshaw as backup, but a bit like Tim, a little bit worried about the weather. So maybe that might fall back to a Taranto who might be a little bit more safer in that kind of wet weather footy.
What do you think? You don't have English, Holmesy?
Nah, mate, I don't have good players.
No. Yeah.
That's
what do you
right.
think about him as an option, though?
Holmes got Briggs.
Yeah, I got Briggs. So I got the other number 2 ruck.
If you had him, would you have him over Brayshaw, do you think?
Yeah, I think I would lock in that VC tonight, Tim. I think Port Adelaide is one of the softer ruck matchups, although it's not Bryn Teakle anymore, but it's not going to matter. I think Tim English is the man in form, so that's where I'd probably look to go. And apologies if it doesn't pay off, but yeah, that's where I'd be going.
Nah, mate, it's not on you, mate. It's not on you. It's on me, but I'm definitely going to take your advice anyway. Lock in the VC for English, and then we'll run into Laird on tomorrow.
I'd agree. Yeah, I'm going English straight C because with bloody Gordon.
Also, I also like looking at Jaden Popowski's projections as well, because he's got a pretty bloody good average. Those projections work out pretty well. I think Laird is one of the top ones there.
Yeah, funny thing though, English not on it this week.
No, I noticed that. Hey, yeah, Laird number 1, Dawson number 2, Brayshaw number 3, Dunkley. But yeah, it wouldn't allow for the weather with Brayshaw. Dunks, we know he's going to be a good option. Merritt would be another good option, but obviously we now know Ed Kerno's in the side. Tom Green, Stephen Canelio, obviously the North matchup. Timmy Taranto's, fair bit down number 9, and Caleb Sarong.
I'm just having a look at their projections
so
here.
So this is actually this is just a good point to discuss. So the thing I actually, because Bales mentioned to me about him putting the VC on English, and we talked about how Port are an easy matchup for rucks, but I thought that was more the case when Lysett had been out of the side, and now that he's back in, I'm not sure that they're as easy a matchup as they were before. But I could be making shit up, Holmes. Any thoughts on that?
I haven't looked into it as deeply, but from what I can remember looking at the DFS website, even before Bryn Teakle came in, I thought Port were on the easier side for ruck. So maybe not now that they're quite restrictive as a team. They hold on to the ball a fair bit, but I think English is he's in the form of his life. I don't think it's going to matter for Tim English.
No. Yeah, well, looking at it, English played Port once this year, and that was in that really wet game in Gather Round, and he put up a 123, and that was in the wet. So, and that was Lysett was playing in that game as well. So he's back under roof at Marvel, where he obviously puts up some big scores there. 158 last week when he had a poor history against Geelong. So that's why I'm and he's only 3 scores under 100 this year, been against pretty restrictive ruckman in Ned Reeves with the Hawks, Pitney for Carlton, and Gold Coast. And that was up in the slippery conditions anyway. So in every other game, English has gone 111 or more. So I just think it's a safe either VC, or if people like me put Goulden or someone VC last night, I think it's a good captain choice to fall back on tonight. So I'm liking it. It'd be good to actually watching this week instead of playing at the same time as the Crows. So boys, any other sort of burning sort of topics you guys may want to discuss quickly before we get into some listener questions at all? I know that obviously a couple of rookies are the most traded in, with McDonald, who's not named, and Harvey Harrison, which I don't think you can go there now, the fact that the squads haven't been announced. But any other popular topics you guys want to discuss?
No, nothing for me. Let's get into some questions, eh?
Yeah, Holmesy, any last minute things before we get into any questions at all?
No, let's do it, mate. Just on Goulden, how happy was I last night that he finally didn't put a massive ton on my head after trading out 6 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, because you went Goulden to Crouch, but that's good, mate. You got the 40-odd points back last night, which was nice. And
40 points from the 300 I've lost in the previous 5.
But speaking about Crouch, though, so I'll ask this first question. What are your thoughts on Brad Crouch as an option moving forward after 123 last night? And I think he popped a 114 or whatever the game before the bye, and looks to be in a bit of form now.
Yeah, look, mate, I personally, as an owner, I don't think you could do it. I think what we saw last night was maybe a little bit of victim of Jack Steele not being 100%. So I think Crouch probably had more of a prominent hit-to role at stoppage than he normally does. And I think you'll find as Jack Steele starts to get his fitness back, I think he kind of takes over that midfield, and Crouch may take a bit of a second role. You only have to look back Over the last month, yeah, he was good like the game before, but 370s in a row, I'm pretty sure, and it was not pretty. So as an owner, it's not someone I'm advocating to bring in, but you can't argue that on what he's done before, he could potentially be a value pick.
Yeah, and then Jack Steele as well. You brought him in as well this week. Did you like what you saw in the second half? I'm going to say the first half, but second half, he had 67 points. I think it ended up being.
I think it was.
You want to know?
I think
you got funny, Bales?
You got added a tackle.
Obviously, got the young kids.
67, yeah.
Got the young kids, so I was obviously watching a bit of footy, and then around bedtime. So I actually didn't watch the third quarter. So I watched the first and second, and the fourth, of which he barely touched it in any of those quarters, but he went bonkers in the third. So. Look, it's Jack Steele. He didn't look fantastic in that first half. He looked a bit slow and off the pace. There was a lot of almost tackles that he nearly had. There was a few times where he went to tackle, but the Swans player wasn't good enough to pick up the ball. And I think he's going to be fine, but probably not the right play to jump on him next week, knowing that he's probably going to lose a lot more cash in a year that's so tight for cash. But these are the type of moves that you have to do if you want to get a leg up on the comp, going early sometimes just to make sure you get ahead of the game. So I don't really regret it. And I think he's still going to be a very good option moving forward.
Yeah. Well, I thought I was getting ahead of the comp moving and bringing him in 6 weeks ago, and he's gone 5 out of 6 games under 90 or 4 out of 5 under 90 with the bye. So not great. But Tim, were you going to add something there? Or?
Oh, look, yeah. I mean, first time I saw him last night was he was playing forward. I saw him in the forward arc. So I don't know. I don't know if he started the centre bounce. I didn't pay a huge amount of attention to this game. I actually hate watching games at the SCG. I find them really hard to watch. But the thing that was very different at the beginning of that third quarter, he was straight into the centre bounce. He was straight hard at the ball. He got, I think, his first stat was a tackle within, from that first centre bounce, and he was just working his guts out in that third quarter. So. It was really hard for me to kind of pick. Is he still injured and a bit hobbled, or?
I don't think so. I looked at him last night and he looked fine. I think, as Holmes, he said, a few tackles where the Sydney player either didn't pick up the ball or they got the ball and he tackled.
But he had a 7-point second quarter, right? That's not just being a little bit off the game.
Yeah, he did look off, Tim. Like me and Selby were speaking about it. He looked a bit lame, to use that word. Like he just looked a little bit slow and off the pace. Just that person that's just not quite 100% and not maybe doesn't have 100% confidence in his body at the moment. But a 63-point second half.
It's hard to know.
Maybe that bake from Ross at halftime. Maybe that gives him a little bit of confidence in a good win. And they do have Richmond next week, soft matchup for midfielders. So maybe he doesn't lose that much cash. So one to watch.
And like you said, these are the kind of players that you want. You can really nail and jump ahead of the comp.
Yeah.
But exactly, it's just right. They always come with a risk, though.
Yeah, he looked back to the Steele of old in the third quarter, but you probably want to wait a week or so to see how he goes. But let's get into some of these questions. So if you're watching either or listening on Twitter or watching on YouTube, send through your questions and we'll answer as many as possible. Whatever ones don't get answered, I will be live doing a watch along for the game tonight, Bulldogs and Port. So I'll be answering questions before that when we finish up. So Tim, are you heading to varsity tonight, mate?
Yeah, mate.
Yeah, so if anyone's in the Perth area and wants to head down to varsity, make sure you get down with those boys. We going for about another 38 minutes and we'll let you guys go and get Tim down to varsity. But let's get in the first one. So Connor's got the first one. He said he went Doherty over Merritt last week, Steele and Goulden over Brayshaw and Sarong this week. Nothing's going well, but hoping in the long term I can get some reward on those players. So a bit unlucky there, Connor, mate. But just keep with the process and keep bringing in the players and hopefully they repay the faith. Shannon Page said, I'm moving out Humphrey, Cowan and Davies, bringing in Sin, Keys and Callan Ward in for cash gen. What are we doing? Are we happy with those moves, Holmesy?
Just thinking about them, I'm a little bit unsure in terms of they're bringing in a lot of players that have their bye soon. So we really want to try and bring in players coming off their bye. Unless their structure is really, really well set up. But I am not 100% sold on Keys or Ward, to be honest. They're both players that currently have the role, but how long they keep that role for is anyone's guess. So you don't want to get stuck with too many of those players in your side because if they all lose the role, then you can't get them all out. So maybe try and pick one of them and and upgrade your side elsewhere. That would be my advice.
Yeah. Well, Shannon said they don't have Brayshaw. So, as you said, maybe go one of Wardock Keys down and see if you can get up to Brayshaw instead. But as a Crows fan, Selby actually raised a good point. I think it's probably best to wait a week. I know he's got the Eagles this week. Best to wait a week, see if that role continues as mid, because he's got his bye next week. You can bring him in round 15, knowing that that's a 3-week sample size. And this is probably a game where you could easily just put a Rochelle and Rankin, Saligo, guys like that in the midfield against the Eagles. So if he's got the role this week, I think you can bring him in with a bit of confidence. But I don't mind Ward as a 2-week play, but you would have to be only 2 weeks and you have to have a backup plan to get off. But yeah, try and bring in those players off the round 12 by, I think, Shannon there. NM said VC Goulden, obviously not good enough score. Not sure who I should captain, English or Laird, Dawson or Brayshaw. So, boys, are we all happy to go Laird over English, or are you going English or Dawson or Brayshaw? What are we thinking with that?
I'd go English there. I think English is going to be the safer one.
Yep. Tim, agree?
Yeah, I'm putting the C on Laird this week.
Yeah. Well, if you want to follow me, NM, because I've done that exact same stuff, I'm going English over Laird, Dawson and Brayshaw. I've got all 4. So, yeah, I just think English is I think after your VC fails, I think English is the safest one. He's not going to get tagged or anything like that. So I just think that there's a risk that either of the other 3 can possibly get tagged, even though I don't think any will. Moonboy not happy that he brought in Lloyd on debut with only a 77. Yeah, obviously it's not great. Go to Twitter for a couple here. John's got this one. If buys aren't a problem, which rookie's better to bring in, Josh Sin or Josh Fahey?
Oh, honestly, just flip a coin. Hey, it's rookie roulette for a reason. Probably Josh.
Do you bring in Sim at the lower break even?
Josh Sin, I think. Seems like he probably has better job security. He's knocked out a few good players in that side, so maybe they're keen to run with him for a little bit. And we've seen how Fahey's been on the outer.
Yeah, Tim, you're bringing in Fahey. Is that because you can't afford Sin, or you just decided to bring in Fahey anyway?
I actually need a defender.
I need a defender. Okay.
Yeah. But I would actually probably go. Yeah, I'd be with Holmesy. I'd go Sin over Fahey, just because I think for him to have fought his way into that side, I think kind of says something about, And I think we also talked a lot about him in the preseason, about the role they wanted him in the side.
Hinkley likes him, yeah.
Yeah, I just think that the job security is a little bit stronger. I mean, Faye, he's been trying to get in, but he's struggling to break in.
The thing I like with Sin though is that Porter been winning, and he came on a sub last week. And I thought he actually looked really, really good. I know it was against Hawthorn, but he looked really good, used the ball well, and he's been named in the 22 straight up. So that for me is a big positive. But if you had that round sort of next buy, or was coming off his buy, to be probably the most trading player this week, but that round 15 buy is a little bit tricky for coaches. But John's trades, he's going Pedler to Sin, Atkins to Johnson, and Fiorini to Brayshaw. So I can just say that we're all going to be ticking off those moves. They're great moves there. Paul has said, would you tick off going Ashcroft to Lockie Neal and Atkins to Johnson? Or is it better to hold Ashcroft and trade Sheasel instead?
I'd trade Sheasel instead, I think. Have the extra number this week and the extra number moving forward. I haven't looked at the break-evens, though, but I'd say Ashcroft and Sheasel both have high break-evens, but I'd say Ashcroft's probably more likely to get closer to his with a pretty soft matchup against Hawthorn at the MCG.
Yeah, so Ashcroft's break-even is 93 and Sheasel's is 117. So even if you want to just find the break-evens, it's obviously better. It's a better matchup for Ashcroft, I think. Better sort of role because you sort of guaranteed what Ashcroft is, whereas Sheasel 9. Yeah, I think everything ticks to trading out Sheasel over Ashcroft. Brisbane Bloods Fantasy says, which trades would you go buy? Structures fine for all of them. So option 1 is going Zeeble to Hayden Young, Will Day to Elliot Yeo, and Sheasel to Brayshaw. So that's the first combo. Second combo is going Zeeble to Young again, Will Day or Harry Sheasel to Brayshaw, and then Wilmot to Fahey. And then the third option is Zeeble to Brayshaw, Sharp to Johnson, and Long to Fahey. I know it's a lot of names there. I personally like option. I like the third option the most because you're getting rid of a red dot in Sharp to Johnson. Long to Fahey's probably a waste trade, so maybe don't do that one. Maybe try and find something else. But Zeeble to Brayshaw. If you guys can remember all the names I read out, Is there an
I
option
can't.
that stands out?
Yeah, I think option
yeah.
3, as you were saying those out, I think option 3 stood out the most to me. Although I probably wouldn't trade Long if you can avoid it, just because he's going to be a valuable on-field body in round 15 when we're going to be struggling for forwards in the forward line. And I think he's still probably got a bit of cash gen to make potentially with the role in that side.
Yeah, I agree. If they've got another red dot, could they move maybe that red dot? And if you can't get Brayshaw, would you be happy to settle for a Sarong or a Neil, Holmesy?
Yep, absolutely.
Yep, yeah, I think you do that. What are your thoughts on Sarong now? There's a bit of talk apparently about an ankle concern. Personally, I'm not too concerned, but what are your thoughts with Sarong as an option?
If he's playing, he's playing. I wouldn't worry about the ankle too much. I always just get a little bit worried about having 2 top 8 mids in the same side. Historically, it's pretty hard to have 2 players. You know, we've seen the Bulldogs do it, and we've seen Clarion Petrarca do it one year. But to have both Sarong and Brayshaw end up as top 8 mids from here, I'm not sure it's going to happen. So if you're really hot on Brayshaw, I'd probably look to go elsewhere just so you're not doubling up on the same team. And I think Sarong's pretty fairly priced. So if you are looking to still get him, his price isn't going to go up or down too much.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. EV said that Nank scored 107 against Lyset 2 weeks ago. So not a solid score. I guess English will probably do something similar, if not probably more. Adam says Fahey or Marich. So Ryan Marich from the Eagles make his debut, the number 1 pick from the mid-season draft. Can't afford to trade another round 15 player with Sin. Well, if that's the case, you probably got to go Marich because Marich has got the bye next week. Fahey's got the bye in round 15, which you just said that you can't bring in a round 15 player. So are we saying that you bring Marich in over Fahey if you can't bring another round 15 player?
I cannot tick this one off.
No.
He had 5 possessions in the waffle on the weekend, and it's going to be very different coming into a side that might actually be able to get him the footy a little bit better than in that Eagles waffle side. But a key position forward in, sorry, Tim, the worst team in the comp at the moment doesn't exactly scream fantasy scoring. So I think you can afford to wait and see how he lines up. But I would think that his spot in the side is going to be questioned once the bodies start to return after the bye.
Is there a suggestion made what Adam could potentially do? So he said that he can't bring in Sin or, well, you said round fitness, so that means Faye as well. He's got too many. So do you maybe take a punt on a Harrison hoping he gets named, which is a lot of risk in itself? Or do you try and see, I don't know exactly what other options you've really got out there. What could we probably suggest for Adam?
Yeah, I think maybe tweak the trades a little bit and try to get, I mean, he might already have Johnson, so that might be irrelevant, but we always say to let the rookie, the premium that you want to get up to, let the rookie dictate that. But I think it needs to be reversed a little bit this season with the cash gen. So maybe try and tweak your upgrade target, knowing that one of your trades has to bring in Johnson for a little bit less cash.
What Mullen? Would you bring Mullen in a week early, or is that again too risky? You'd wait.
Well, if his buys are right and he reckons he's going to have numbers, then it's a risk you can take, I suppose. But I can't see Mullen holding his spot in the side when you've got Duncan and Danger and a few other best 22 players coming back after the bye. I just think he's going to be out.
Yeah, I agree. I think Bose and Holmes are 2 other names that were injured that could be back as well. I agree with that one. So Jason said, Sin or Faye, we'd be going Sin. We said that before. Clay Smith said, Zeeble and Angwin. So he said Sheldrick and Brayshaw. So that one's obviously locked in. So would we be going Zeeble to Brayshaw, or would we be going Sheasel and JVR? So holding Zeeble and Angwin. Actually, I'll start that again. Zeeble and Angwin to Sheldrick and Brayshaw, or Sheasel and JVR to Sheldrick and Brayshaw. So who'd be trading at, Zeeble and Angwin or Sheasel and JVR?
I'd be going JZ and Angwin, I think. JVR still has a bit of coin to make after that 77. I think he'd try to want to milk him for all the cash that he's got. And like I said, that being a forward that can be on field in round 15, I'm keen to try and milk these guys and hold them for as long as I can, because players playing on field in round 15 in the forward line are going to be hard to come by.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I would do the same. Corey said might look at Oliver to Brayshaw. Oh, that's right. Because I remember Corey was the one that held Oliver. Warple to Johnson. and Sheasel to Neil, 300 odd K in the bank, and we'll get Sinclair, Sheldrick, and Winhager next week. So are we ticking off those trades? Oliver to Brayshaw, Warpool to Johnson, Sheasel to Neil?
Let me ask it a little bit differently, because so Holmesy, I know you said you were bringing in Neil this week, but you also kind of made a comment about beggars can't be choosers. So I guess what I wanted to do is maybe clarify your thoughts on Neil. Like, I mean, I'm looking at, you know, who I could potentially bring in. I've obviously got the money to go to Brayshaw, but I could bring in Sarong. I could have brought in Sinclair. I could bring in, there's a bunch of other players I could bring in, like Neil, but I'm not convinced by any of them apart from Brayshaw. So I guess that's the context. What do you, now that I've kind of given you that, tell me a little bit more about your thinking behind Neil.
Yeah, I'm hot on Neil. Not hot that he's going to be a guaranteed top 8 mid, but I'm hot that he's going to do a job throughout the buys and potentially moving forward. I think he's not going to be 110, but if he can go 105, that's definitely a win from his price. But Tim, it's more about me trying to plan ahead with the cash gen that I can see what I'm going to have moving forward, so that my team in round 16, I'm not going to have any rookies on the field. So I've still got, if I bring my players all onto the field at the moment, I've still got an Atkins on field, a Wilmot's just come on during the buys, and I've also got a rookie at M8. So I've choosing not to spend up at the moment, knowing that I've still got to get all 3 of those players off the field in the next 3 weeks, and knowing that if I go all the way to the top, I might be putting myself at a little bit of risk of not being able to get those guys off and having a shit rookie on field come round 16. So that's my thinking.
So then, a bit like this question that this guy asked, if you say you didn't have those considerations, the choice or the planning that you had to think about, if you had the option this week to go to a Brayshaw, would you be spending up and going to the Brayshaw, or would you be happy with a Neil and keeping the cash if you didn't have to, I guess, the concerns of your team?
No, if you've got the cash to get to Brayshaw and you know that it's not going to affect your side too badly throughout the next couple of weeks, and you're going to be able to come out of the buys with not a complete side, but with a team that you're happy with, that you don't have any risky mid prices or bad rookies, then absolutely, this is the time of year to get up to those top dogs, and the teams and coaches that have played it well to start the season should be able to capitalize on that now. Whereas teams like myself and others that have maybe had a bit of a rough time, we're still trying to play catch up. So that's why we need to maybe take a haircut every now and again.
Yeah, cool.
I'd agree as well. And Tim, you said it as well, like you a few of those options this week. Besides Brayshaw, it's not really too many screaming out. That's actually why I'm going Dawson, because Dawson for me is screaming out in my own team, thinking I don't have him. I'm a Crows man. I'm sick of watching Dawson put up 120s, and he's got a good matchup this week. Whereas I could bring in a Sarong or a Neil, or could have gone to Sinclair or someone last night. But I thought Sinclair could have got the tag. He did, but he still went well after half time, and yes, that's why I'm sort of going the Dawson over, because I can afford to. But yeah, you're right. There's a few options besides Brayshaw. There's no one that you're like you should be like heavily have to bring in. Like a lot of them have got question marks or whatever. So yeah,
and the reason for my question is kind of exactly the same. I mean, I'm if I look at all my players on side, I've still got an Ashcroft, I've still got a Johnson, I've still got a Wardlaw. So while I've been set on my trades all week, I'm starting to second guess myself a little bit today, going, maybe I should be saving a bit of cash or something along those lines. But I think, I'm just going to stick with my decision. And you've got these 3 trades, and if you can get to the big dogs, go to the big dogs. And my team value is a lot lower than I know. Number one, I think Fleabaggers, he's $1 million higher team value than mine. So I know I'm going to run into some trouble soon. But we'll just close our eyes, fingers crossed, and kick the can down the road and hope for the best.
Tim, I think you've actually got the most team value in the Content Creators Cup from memory. So, really? Or one of the top. So, your team value might not be doing actually too bad. But yeah. Jack said as well, apparently Will Brody's got a bit of a minor injury at the moment, so that's maybe why he didn't come in this week. AFL Fantasyland said, rank 4,800. Question is, what are the trade priorities for next week? So are we bringing in more round 12 guys or downgrades for cash? So, Holmes, I'll go to you for this one while Tim has a look there. Are you like next week, obviously round 14 guys coming off bye, so there's not as many sort of upgrade options to look at. You've just got the round 12 guys, and it's sort of round 13. There's not too many unless you don't have a Tom Stewart. is maybe next week a good idea to downgrade and get some downgrades from the buys and look to spend up around 15 with all those teams come off buy? Or are you still maybe trying to target some maybe underpriced guys next week? So like your Neils, you've even got like a Daniel Rich potentially that some people have looked at. You get a week to look at him this week or some other options. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, just like this week. We've been looking at round 12 players this week, and next week you'll have round 12 players and then round 13 players. So just because you don't go a Lockie Neal, Jack Steele, Caleb Sarong, Andy Brayshaw this week, doesn't mean you can't go them next week. So I'd be still 100% looking to get an upgrade in somewhere and getting a premium who's not necessarily coming off their bye in terms of Geelong and Gold Coast, but absolutely go for your St Kilda, Sydney, Freo, Brisbane players.
Yeah, I'd agree. So, Tim, do you have a look there at all?
What was I looking at? Sorry?
The team value.
You can't see it. Even if you look at the overall ladder, it doesn't actually show you the team values. So it would take a bit for me to look into. But I'll do that later. But
it does for
right.
me.
Yes,
you're
just crop like me and Dossie, mate. There's no shame in it. It's all good. Just become a cropper.
Cropper.
Yeah. So Tim, I've got actually on mine. It actually comes up on mine. So you've got the third highest. Stato is first 21.06. Miller time is second 20.87, and you're third with 20.86.
Okay. Yeah, and it still worries me when you look at number one. He's $1 million higher.
Yeah. They've had a good year with good cash gen up the top. So that's what's been king this year.
In terms of your question, so for me, this week is more about there were some players that were on the bye last week that I wanted to have a look at one more week. So a good example of that was Angus Sheldrick to see how he goes. Obviously, we're a little bit concerned about the role as well and whether he'll stay in the side there. But
can I put a Nat 5 potentially watching in this week to see how he goes?
Yeah, totally. You're also the person that you traded in, Windhager as well. That was certainly someone I wanted to have a bit of a look at to see what sort of role, what sort of scoring. I mean, even a Jack Sinclair.
Rich. See how he goes. He's got Hawthorn.
I'm not particularly excited by Rich. I think he's just too old. I don't really want him. Yeah, he's not someone I really want sitting back there. I mean, in terms of those defenders, I mean, I've still got my eye on someone like James Sicily, a Sam Doherty. I mean, not for these next couple of weeks, but coming off their buys, I'm not sure that I want to put a Daniel Rich in there.
I'm just having a look as well. Apparently Butler got a week suspension just to come off on TV. I don't agree with that. But anyway, we could do that for another podcast. So we'll go some more questions here. So we have got Andrew Griffith says, who do I trade? JVR to Marich and Sheasel goes to Sarong. So we all said that Marich.
Get rid of Marich. Do not bring him in.
Yeah. So, I wouldn't be doing that. Sheasel to Sarong, though, we ticking that off?
Yep.
Look, I mean, I'm concerned that Sarong has overperformed in the front half of this year.
Yeah, because of Brayshaw injury.
Yeah, exactly. So I tend to think that Sarong has been overperforming and that potentially Brayshaw has maybe been a little bit underperforming. I mean, I don't think you can go too wrong, but, you're not buying any value or anything there. And in fact, you might even get a slight decline. But if that's where you can get to, then yeah, sure.
Well, a popular question. Well, here I'll pose one because I've got this question from a few people that just DM me throughout the week, and a few people have asked this: would we be going Sarong or Lockie Neal?
I'm going Lockie Neal.
Good question.
I think they probably could have similar output for the rest of the year. They both have the same role in the team, same time on ground. So I think probably sit in the camp of Tim that he's probably overperformed for the first half of the year. But in saying that, he just keeps getting better and better, doesn't he? So it would not surprise me if he keeps going at 110. And I did say before that Lockie Neal I don't think he has the ability to go 110. So yeah, I think it's probably more likely that Sarong comes back a bit and Neal rises, but it's no doubt that Sarong has the highest ceiling at the moment.
Yeah, I guess they're probably very similar. So the cash maybe, but
I'm going to say Neal. And look, there's $100K difference between them. And then the only thing that I would probably kind of throw in there as well is that, if we look at his last 5 games, he's turned up in all of his last 5, excluding the one against Carlton. And then also the front half of the year, that Brisbane midfield wasn't really gelling. So once again, I kind of feel like Sarong's overperformed. I actually think potentially that maybe Lockie Neal has maybe underperformed a little bit. And, there's 100, is it 100K? Yeah, it's
yeah. Like
100,000.
it's like 95. What do you see? 100K. Yeah.
22 to. Yeah. It's 90 fucking 92, $93,000 difference. So yeah, I'd be going Neil. And then also doesn't have Neil got a better run?
So he does, but I want to probably raise his point to see if you guys agree with this. And I know Holmesy said he's sick of looking at the tags and stuff like that. But I look at these games here, and you've got Hawthorn could cop a Connor Nash tag. Well, I
they
think
haven't been tagging much, though, have they?
They tagged last year though against Hawthorn. I'm just raising the point.
But
Sydney,
lately, they haven't been tagging lately, though, have they?
I'm not sure. But Sydney could cop road bottom. St Kilda. Maybe just Ross, maybe not in that game. I don't know, but Ross maybe. Richmond, I don't expect the tag there. West Coast, we said does O'Neill tag, but as you said, Tim, is really going to be anything to worry about.
Would you even class that a tag? I wouldn't even class it as a tag, would you?
No, probably not. And then he's got Melbourne, who Harms has gone to him in the last couple of games and done a good job. So that's the only flag. But do you guys agree with that, or?
Like I said, mate, I've been worried about tags all year, and it's the reason that I didn't get Jordan Dawson until round 12. It was the reason that I didn't go Merritt. The tags just aren't really a thing at the moment. If you cop one, it's just bad luck, but I wouldn't be letting it sway your decision. You just have to look at Sinclair last night.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. Yep, I agree. I just thought I'd maybe raise that little point if people were maybe looking at that.
I'm super tempted by Neil now.
Yeah, I'm still going to stay strong. I'm going to go Jordan Dawson.
It's $150,000 difference between him and Brayshaw.
Yeah, I still think Brayshaw.
That's 20 points. There's not 20 points between them, is there?
Well, I'd still go Brayshaw personally, but yeah, that's just my thing. Would you? Well, we said to Holmesy before if you'd go Brayshaw and Neil, but I think you said you'd still part for Brayshaw if you can. So I'd be going Brayshaw. But Tim, you're in a lot better position than me, mate. So
yeah, good dramas to have, good problems to have.
Yeah. Mike Purdy's got this one. He said I know, just saying going English captain as well. What have we got here? So, JS, is it worth trading Shizu out to get Tim English? So what are our thoughts about getting Tim English with a bye coming up? We still just not mattering with Tim English and bringing him in, or are we maybe trying to grab someone else that's coming off their bye? What are our thoughts?
So, as the only non-Tim English owner on this pod at the moment, I can see why you want to grab him. He's just been absolutely unbelievable, and we know that he's probably got a good score coming tonight. I personally, it's not the way I play the game. I think I would be waiting until after the bye, just waiting for his bye and then getting him after, knowing that in that week off you can potentially try and get some points back there when he's not playing. But I can understand why coaches are trying to get to him. He's the ruckman that we all want to have in our sides for the rest of the season.
So he's talking about obviously She's with English. He's obviously got a bit of cash there. Would you be more comfortable going potentially could be a red dot, or it could be a JVR or a peddler or someone that's got their bike coming up, or if you want to go Wilmot out, if you're good for numbers, would you go them to your mate Briggsy, or would you even go maybe a Darcy Cameron who's got that ruck forward status? I know you were keen, Holmes, in the preseason.
I wouldn't be mucking around with a Darcy Cameron in terms of he's a good option, but not in the ruck line. I think if you can get to English, I think you just get there. Briggs is an interesting one. I think I can't not advocate for getting him because I got him last week, but a lot of the good work on his price rise has already been done. So, look, I think if you want to get a ruckman, just bite the bullet and get English. I think you'll sleep a lot better having him in your side.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. And I did that last week with Darcy. I just said I could have got Briggs, but I'm like, no, I've got to get English. I'm sick of watching Bulldogs and him put up 150s most weeks. Sultan has got this one. Sharp, Will Day and Zeeble out to Sarong, Young and Harrison. Are we ticking those off, Tim?
Say them again.
Sharp, Day and Zeeble out for Sarong, Young and Harrison.
I'm not sure going either Zeeble or Day to Hayden Young's that much of an upgrade, right? You're just sort of trading for the bye rounds. Like, you might get a sugar hit against Richmond tomorrow, but if it's in the wet, there's not going to be a lot of easy ball there either. So I'm not sure I'd be going sideways to Hayden Young. I'm not sure it's a massive upgrade, but if you are getting up to him, from a mid-pricer, then that's a little bit of a different story. I think I'd be looking to go a little bit higher from those players.
Yeah, I'd agree. Well, my mate made a good point when I was talking to him yesterday that he said that if you're going Zeeble out, you've probably got to be going him up to a Brayshaw type, like a sort of top line big dog, instead of just sort of going sideways to a Young or even someone like a Sinclair, even someone like that. You're probably going to be going up if you're trading Zeeble. But what are thoughts about trading a Will Day? A few people have been asked about maybe trading a Will Day. He's had the role, had a few tough games of late, copped a couple of tags. Are we happy to be holding him even past his bye? Are we trading him out next week? Or what are our thoughts with him? I'm assuming we've all got him in our side.
Yeah, he's someone that I will probably look to move on either at his bye or come round 16 if I desperately need the numbers. But similar to that last question, I think you're only trading out Will Day if you're getting up to a genuine top mid or a genuine top defender like your Dawsons, even though they've got the bye next week, because I don't think you're gaining heaps to go sideways to a Hayden Young, Jake Lloyd type. I think you could probably potentially get the same output from a Will Day moving forward than you would from those players.
Yeah, Tim, I think actually you don't have Will Day, so you don't have that issue to deal with.
No, I don't.
Or dilemma, I should say, to deal with.
I don't think I'd be trading him out until he's bye, though. I think he's had a bit of a rough run. I think I expect him to perform better than he has the last few weeks.
I guess unless you're absolutely stacked on round 14, which I don't think many people are stacked, but they've probably got maybe a lot of defenders. But yeah. James Crabb has got this one here. So he said Fiorini to Sarong, Greenwood to Johnson, and Sheasel to Neil. So I think the first two would probably tick off those. But Sheasel to Neil, he's already got Brayshaw as well. So are we happy to go Sheasel to Neil? I know we're talking about maybe wanting to go up to a big dog, but would we tick that off?
Yeah, that's a good trade.
Yep, tick that off. It's something I'm looking to do this week, so I can't not tick it off.
Yeah. A few people are saying Marich or Harrison, and then that was Sultan. Then Smix, he said Marich or Sturt. Oh, did Sturt get named for Freo, Holmesy?
I didn't see him as an out, but he was the sub last week, wasn't he? So he must have held his spot in the 22.
Yeah, he did.
So 251K. I'd be a little bit worried that he's only in there whilst Darcy is out. So if you're relying on him as a number to play in round 14 and 15, it'd be a nervous weight on Sean Darcy.
So would we be going? Well, we'd be going Sturt over Marich, but Harrison, would we be going Sturt over Harrison, or?
I think I'd be going Sturt over Harrison, yeah, just because you know that he's playing. The last thing you want is to trade into Harrison, and he's not named in the side on Sunday night.
For what it's worth, though,
if
it was a choice out of Marich and Harrison, I'd be going Harrison.
Yeah, so probably ranking, you go Sturt, Harrison, and Marich. Yeah, I'd probably agree with that three. I'd be going Sturt, at least as Holmes said. That he's playing. Yeah. What happened? Can you hear me?
You there, mate?
Yeah, you got me?
I think you both can't hear each other at the moment. Tim's talking, then Bales is talking, but you are not communicating with each other.
I'll jump off and jump. Oh,
yeah, I was going to. That's all right. Yeah, I thought that my thing was going well there, but yeah, we'll have to see what happens with Tim. Hope he's back. But Harry's got next one. What's the best downgrade defender around sort of 200K? Is it Fahey, Holmesy, or would you be maybe see if you can get DPP and going someone else?
Or if he's looking at a defender, I guess he doesn't have the DPP. So yeah, Fahey's definitely the best defender option playing this week. You've always got to back in the guy that's actually playing. So Fahey this week, and then hopefully Mullins next week if he's named. Yeah.
Tim, you can hear me now? You're on mute.
I'm on mute, but I am back.
Okay, perfect. You can hear me. Good. I don't know what was going on with that. Good old Twitter space with its little gremlins that come in every now and again.
Just on that, lads, now that you are back together, the relationship's back on. I've got a duck. So thanks for having me.
No worries. Thanks for jumping on, Holmesy, mate. Where can the people find you and the Pod?
Yeah, just jump on @PodPod on Twitter. You don't want to go to @Holmesy Heroes this year. We've been no good, so just avoid that page. But plenty of good advice still on the Pod. Yeah, we have fun there. So come have a listen.
Perfect. Thanks, Holmesy, for jumping on, mate.
Legend,
and good luck
Holmesy.
this weekend for the rest of the rounds.
Thanks,
Yeah,
mate.
cheers, boys. And just on that, Bales, you've been pretty unlucky. I think I'm quite lucky that my name doesn't actually go pretty well with buy, because clearly the Content Creators Cup this year I've been an absolute liability, and you've copped all of it, even though I've been doing worse than you. So thanks for taking all the heat.
Oh, mate, I'm happy to be a man of the people and give the people what they want. So people are saying the buy, but I've had a look at my run in the Content Creators Cup, and if the odds were there, I think I'm favouring every other game. So hopefully we can make the 8. So we'll have to see. But beautiful. Thanks, Holmesy.
No worries, boys. Thank you.
See you soon, mate.
Well, speaking about the Content Creators Cup, Tim, just before we get to the last few questions before we head off in about 5 minutes or
Sure,
so, what are the matchups coming up
Warney
this week?
versus
We've got a few
Dossie.
good ones there.
Bales and Nath. Mitch.
It's probably my tough one there with Nathan. He's 5th, I think.
Yeah, he's up there. So Mitch and Sanch. That should be a pretty good. That's probably the game of the week, I would think. They're both doing pretty well at the moment. So Statesman and Louis pod showdown. So that'll be a good game as well. Then Miller Time and Dunkley's Donuts. Myself, I'm up against Calvin. And then, oh my God, here we go. Nug and Destroy and Doe and the Ox Shorts.
Yep, a few good games there. So looking forward to seeing what those results are. But I did actually have a look at my run home, and I have got 3 of the bottom 4 sides. Obviously, we know that the league is very competitive, but if I'm looking at in terms of runs, hopefully I can make a late charge and sneak in
Plan
the 8.
the comeback, you, mate?
I've come from a little bit far behind with a few unlucky results in
I think
this
it's going to be
year,
really interesting to see how everyone comes out of the buys.
Exactly right. Yeah. No, I'm definitely keen to see. Looking forward to it. And then also, looking forward to. I messaged you last night, Tim, and anyone listening out there, the Perth legends out there. Bales is flying over to Perth for the live show, so I'll be over in Perth for 11 days. So really looking forward to coming over there and hitting up the varsity bar. Hopefully, there's a meet up in round 17 for the Bulldogs Collingwood game. So
no doubt there will be,
good
mate.
to see. Yep, so I'll be there and looking forward to it. And shout out to my mate Ben, who's letting me stay with him for 11 days while I'm over there. So, so we'll get through some last minute questions for we.
Mate, just the last couple, because I got to run.
Yep, no, that's right. So we'll go rapid fire these ones to get through them. If you've got more questions, head to the watch.
Don't throw too many names at me at once. You got to do like a couple at a time. I can't do 3.
Well,
we can do 2, compare 2. We'll pick the best out of the 2 and then compare the 3rd. But I can't compare 3. It's too much for my brain.
Well, the first one will be good for you, Tim. So Susan said that she's held Oliver for 2 weeks, and now that he's not back, is going to Brayshaw sideways. Is that a good trade?
Yeah, I think so.
I'll tick that off. Because you're missing Oliver for at least the next 2 weeks. He'll be back in round 15, but I think Brayshaw will play. So get that upgrade or get that move done while you can. Some Chai says, how about Zeeble to Sicily and take on the fact that he's got the bye next week with a break even of 55? So are we ticking off Sicily to Zeeble to Sicily?
No, we're not ticking off bringing in a player that's got a bye. I just don't think that's a wise move.
That means you're probably saying that my move of Sheasler to Dawson is not a wise move, mate.
Oh.
Maybe Dawson's a bit of a different kettle of fish because Dawson's probably the top defender, if not number 2, whereas Sicily.
I guess we are going to need those defenders.
Because when you look at it, who are you going instead of Sicily though?
This is why I'm bringing in Faye. I'm bringing in Faye to plug a hole in my defence, so to enable me to bring in a big dog midfielder. And I don't need 22 players on field. I only need 18 that are playing on field. So, so that's how. I'm just I know. How can I explain this? So I know a lot of people have been trying to bank cash, right? I just don't see how that's a good idea. I know we've got buys that you've got to allow for as well, but even having a player that you're bringing in that's going to be sitting on the bench, it's effectively like banking cash. Is there another trade that you could do where you can bring in a big dog onto another part of the field rather than bringing in a primo that's not playing?
Yeah, Yeah, it is a good discussion point because a lot of people sort of say we want 22 and whatever.
But why do
if
we
you
need
could sort of-
22?
no. But yes, so
'Cause
that's what I was going to say. But
here's
like
how
you
I
could,
think
the
about it, right?
argument.
If you're planning, even for round 15, right? If you're planning to have 20 players on the field, right? And I get it certainly does give you like a safety net in terms of getting red dots or something along those lines. But if you've got 20 green dots on the field, you know, it's you've got less value in each player than if you've got 18 green dots. So that's what I've been lining up to have, because we know that round 15 is tight. Only 18 green dots, but having the best possible 18 that I could. And that was kind of a little bit of my strategy last week as well, just having as many primos as I possibly could, rather than just focusing on the green dots. Focus on your primos.
Yeah, because if you look at it, you could have like a mid price that scores a 60 and a rookie that gets a 30, but you could just have that primo that gets a 110 and you sort of even 10 points up. So yeah, it's a good discussion point because a lot of people say you want 22, but then some people like yourself are like, well, I just want as close to 18 primos each week as possible, and if I can get a 1 or 2 rookies maybe for each week, and if they pop a good score or whatever, then you can get that.
I'm even thinking about this kind of. I'm even willing to take a donut in round 15 if it means that I've got 17 primos rather than 16 primos with 2 rookies. Like, maybe you're better off having 17 primos and a red dot than 16 primos and 2 rookies. Like, you know, I'm kind of weighing that up as well, you know. So, look, I'm playing a lot more aggressively than I have any other year, and that's.
Oh, hang on.
Sorry, I think my one of my alarm went off. That's why it cut me out. But yeah, I'm just going to continue to play as aggressively as I can for the rest of the year and see how it plays out and see what I learn.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there, unless I know Warnie's listening in. So Warnie, mate, I know Tim's got to go now. Warnie, if you want to jump on for a couple of minutes and discuss anything, but if not, we can wrap up there. But Tim, mate, we'll be back on Monday night, not Sunday. It'll be Monday afternoon, straight after the game with the that. But stay tuned. We may have a special guest, very special guest, jumping on. So stay tuned for that. We'll double confirm. But yeah, Tim, mate, where can the people find you?
Tim Guest AU and at the Varsity Bar.
Beautiful. Well, Warnie has jumped on, so I'll chat for Warnie for a little bit. But Tim, mate, we'll speak to you on Monday afternoon, and have a good weekend.
See you, boys.
Mate.
Best of luck for the weekend.
Beautiful. Thanks, Tim. Warnie just jumped on for a little chat. Warnie, mate, how are you going?
G'day, Bales. How are you, mate?
Yeah, not bad, mate. How are you? How are you looking ahead of round 13?
Not sure, to be honest. I'm actually having to change something. I didn't back in. Well, I couldn't back in Sheldrick last night. Realistically, I would have liked to have done it, being the basement price player that he was. I went with Windhager instead, so I'm not devastated in doing that because I think he'll be a decent little pick to have over the next few weeks and wherever that ends up as a trade later on. But yeah, if I had have gone Sheldrick, I would have opened myself up to have probably made the move that I'd prefer to do, which basically I can get rid of Sharp this week, and that if I had have gone Sheldrick, that would have been to Neil, and that would have been a pretty simple, easy option. But I'm now thinking about going from my Sharp to Daniel Rich, which is a bit of a weird one. It's I guess the price is all about there. I can get Lockie Neal, but it would be going from Atkins. And this is just me getting a bit by around crazy, just thinking bums on seats and warm bodies over those round 14 and 15 when we might need them, especially next week with Atkins being off his bye and those round 14 buys that we do have in the back line. It might be better for me to have him still there. But yeah, this will be just something I'll have to sit on overnight, I reckon, and wait and see what that looks like.
Yeah, I don't mind the Rich player. I know that he's been you've been one of your favourites in years past. He's been a member of the Warren Dogs in previous years, and I don't mind him at $670K. He's cheap and has got the role. No, Kitty Coleman could be a positive, good matchup, and worst case he puts up a dud score and he might not even count. So you're keen on him, and what about other people that maybe might be considering him? Is he?
I don't think I could really talk anyone into it. That's probably the biggest thing about it. It's a very risky play. I'm thinking, it's a 2-week sort of play for me. Hopefully, ideally he'd be the sort of guy that you'd trade at that round 16, ahead of round 16 to move on. But sort of priced at 80, I think he can at least do that. He's probably, when I like to call it, good for a 90, and just their fixture gives me a little bit of hope, I think, coming up. The Kitty Coleman being out, you run through all the scenarios in your head. And I think the big one for that for me was a little bit of going, oh, if he's out and he's the sub, that would be a pretty nice little straight swap if they're up by a heap and Rich needs a rest. So you do go round in circles thinking stuff like that sometimes in fantasy footy. But yeah, at the moment, I think I'll do that just because, bums on seats is what it's a bit about, just making sure that I'll be in a better position in around 14 and 15, which at the moment I have worked towards that. So I might cop the hit. Last week I did a bit, having a low 1800 score, but hopefully those rounds 14 and 15 are better, and especially 15 for me because I don't actually have many of the big dog premiums. I've sort of dodged a few of those guys, not necessarily by choice, but I don't have, a Cornelio, for example. I don't have Zeeble and don't have Butters. So whereas a lot of people would have those three as forward line players, I reckon that's where they could be A, trading or B, in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, agreed. So how many minutes can you spare? Because I'll just go maybe through a couple of questions. You got maybe 5-10 minutes?
Should be right.
Yep, perfect. I'll just go through a couple of sort of more burning questions, Coach. So the first one that a lot of people ask me about, Neil or Sarong. So people just had that debate. Who are you picking out of those two? Are you going the value in Neil or are you going paying up?
It's the value in Neil for me, I think. We can get spooked again by different things along the way. There's that little bit of a niggle for Sarong that he's been battling for a couple of weeks now, but that's not really enough for me to say no. But I just think the 100K, and I'm probably coming from a position in my team where money is important. I'd be going Neil over Sarong.
Yeah, because I think before Holmesy and Tim was saying that it's probably they may be very similar, but maybe Sarong's outperformed a little bit, whereas maybe Neil hasn't performed up.
I agree with that too.
What he has, which I probably agree with.
That. I guess it's Is there a world that that Neil scores and averages more from here on? 100% there is. So I think that's where you can do that.
Yeah. The other one was the rookie downgrade. So people have thrown up names like Josh Fay's one that's obviously named in the 22. You've got Josh Sin who's playing tonight. Obviously, they both got that round 15 bye. Then you also got Ryan Marich from the Eagles making his debut, and then Harvey Harrison, which I know that you guys, and I agree with it, that you probably can't quite go there with the fact that he hasn't been. We just don't know if he's going to be named with teams not announced till Sunday. So have you got a preference with any of those other three names?
It's super tricky, and I don't actually know the answer to that because everyone's got little flags next to him. I think I like Sin as a player. That's someone that I think could actually find his spot in there and be there for a bit. But obviously round 15, he's got the forward status, and we are loaded there, and a lot of teams are even very heavily loaded, so that makes that hard. Whereas Faye with that the round 15, but he's a defender, I think that is there's a tick in there for that, I think. But again, like these guys, some of them, Faye is a good example of that. You can be getting him in after the bye because his price probably won't change a heap over those next 2 weeks anyway, regardless of what he scores. Obviously, he could pump out some massive ones and could see it go north pretty quickly. But because he's had those sub games, and that's a little bit like the Sheldrick call the other day, he's got a high break even, so he's not going to burn you financially if you don't get him now. So it's really tricky. To be honest, I don't have an answer. Probably the only way I would go for that is Marich, who I think is going to be the worst scorer, but he's probably got the best job security as well and has the round 14 bye as a forward, so he could give you a heartbeat there and help you next week. In round 15, I mean.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I think, but as you said on the pod this week, and people said, I think if you can afford Johnson, I think you go Johnson ahead because he'll be hopefully playing there, got a good role, and we've seen this year it's actually been a bit of a good thing to pay up for these rookies because you've had a lot of the paying up, so you got like Dylan Williams, Josh Weddle, I'm sure there's others I'm forgetting off top, and Seamus Mitchell that have pumped out some good scores and risen. So if you can get Johnson, I think he is the play there. So what are your thoughts on people bringing in a primo from round 14 or 15 over your round 12? So, for example, like myself, I'm going a Jordan Dawson over a Lockie Neal and guys like that. What are your thoughts on maybe people doing that if it works for their buys? If it works for
their buys, that's okay. But I've just really gone with the philosophy, rightly or wrongly, of only getting players coming off their buy. I think the bums on seat thing and how important it is to have well over your 18 because of what scores could happen. Like, who would have thought that last week Roy would be dropping off Sam Walsh's score and stuff like that. So if you're setting yourself up, the other side of that too with a Dawson, I love him and he's a great option. You're paying a lot of cash for a dude that is missing though, and that's where you might be in a position where, like a Elliot Yeo, for example, that people might be doing. And I know that's a lot about money and what they can afford and that sort of trade for that. I'd feel a bit more comfortable doing that than getting a big dog premium, but it's still a play and it can work, and I'm okay with it. Like, I'm not going to talk you out of doing that because I think what he can score this week and in a fortnight's time will probably outperform some of those guys, and that's one of those learnings each year that we have, and you put them in your little black book sort of thing. I'm thinking of that around. I've been way too buy focused, and I would have been better playing the game just more naturally and maybe taking a hit instead of buying right into your Fiorinis, etc., etc., etc.
So, I think I may have my Crows glasses on with that one, with the Dawson. Just want to bring him in. I'm sick of watching the Crows and having Dawson.
It's a hard watch without him.
But but you mentioned Sheldrick before, but I was going to say as well that I don't think Roy would have expected the 79 from him last night and those people out there. So,
no, I reckon anything
score.
over 50 would have been a shock or any sort of a bonus. And he might end up there. Roy's in a funny position with that though, because he now has to make a decision of benching Wardlaw, I think it is for him, which I would do. I would do that, but it's interesting. You sort of want to back that in. But yeah, I'd be doing that. It'd be nicer if it was a much worse player that you could be doing that with, because realistically, he's probably got worse players on his field than Wardlaw, and therefore he's going to be not be able to have that counted in there. So anyway, here's what it is. That's what we do with putting these guys, because I reckon there'll be a few coaches this week that'll have some emergencies as such on their teams.
So did you have Windhager on your field last night, or was he?
No, he was on field. That's probably by necessity, really. I've still got a couple of red dots, a couple of dead ones. So, he was on field. But I'll probably be pushing to 21 this week. I think it'll be looking like with my trades.
Yeah, because I brought Windhager in as well. I like the look of him, but he's on my bench as my emergency with a 66, and I've got like a Wardlaw, so I'm thinking, do I play Wardlaw and just because 66 may not be in my best 18? So
and I think,
would you agree and probably just leave him there?
Do you have on field? Yeah,
22.
100% you do that, I reckon. You'll play Wardlaw because you might be trying to loop that for that. So you might as well, if he's not going to count, or potentially not going to count, or hopefully a 66 doesn't count in your 18, you've got 4 dudes that he could be as part of, but you might as well take Wardlaw on, and Wardlaw might have a 120, and then he's counting in your 18.
Yeah.
So I'd be taking that on if you've got 22.
Yeah, I agree. Final one as well, captain and VC. What are you looking at doing this week?
So I think I'm going to go Timmy English tonight. I haven't actually confirmed that yet. I just need to not so much run a couple of numbers, but just go, what's going to look nicer in my side. I know there is a massive Port Adelaide flag, but I'm not buying into it too deeply, considering what we have seen a few times.
Yeah, he scored a 123 against Port and Lycett, and that was in the wet as well, whereas he's under the roof at Marvel. So I'm keen on
English this week. And then hopefully roll into Zach Merritt, I reckon. So the Kerno thing.
Ed Kerno?
Yeah, it's a little flag, but I think thing is, even last week, though, they put Liam Shields on him for and he had 90 points in those 3 quarters, so it's not like it was not like it really affected him. And I think Zach can get it done anyway. Be interested to see that game. I'm really looking forward to that one. That's the game of the round for me, probably as a Bomber supporter. But Carlton have got so much to play for at the moment. It's pretty crazy.
Well, just obviously off finish. So what are your thoughts on Sunday night? I actually don't mind the Sunday night.
For when there's a Monday game, 100%, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
As a fantasy footy content producer, I wish the footy finished about 6 o'clock on a Sunday night. It would make my life a lot easier. But anyway, no, Sunday nights on a long weekend, I think it's great, except for our mates in WA because they had their long weekend last week, so they'll be at work while the game's on Monday.
still don't get that. I don't get the whole different public holidays and whatever, but it is what it is. So, but no, Warnie, thanks for jumping on for a bit of a chat there. So, where can, well, two things I'll probably plug here. So, first, the Patreon.
Yeah, that's all kicking along. It's all good fun. Lots of cool content on there and a fair bit of fun with it too, doing the extra midweek podcast and our Sunday night live stream as well. So they've been pretty fun. But yeah, and all the other really good stuff, like Cow does a weekly Scale of Hardest, Roy does a weekly Rolling 22 with a bit of trade stuff. So just stuff that's outside of what we normally do. So that's all cool. And yeah, that's been fun. So you can check that out at patreon.com. Patreon.com/DT Talk. So that's where you can find that, and we've got a heap of legends there, which I know you're one of the legends that is going to be hanging out with us in WA in a few weeks' time.
Yes, I was just about to say that. So if people don't have their tickets, where can people go to get the tickets? Because the Friday show's sold out, but there's another show.
Yeah, so that bloody sold out in a couple of hours on that first night. So we upgraded a venue and all to try to fit everyone in. So we, doing the Thursday night now. So Thursday, 13th of July. So if you go to dreamteamtalk.com, there's plenty of links there that you'll be able to find to get into it, or on any of our social accounts. We've got all that happening. So, it's going to be pretty cool the Thursday night as well, because it's, well, similar in the sense that we'll be watching the footy on Thursday night, and that's the Swans and the Dogs game, and then we'll launch into the show afterwards. And if anyone has the afternoon off or can be there earlier, 4:15, we'll actually do our afl.com.au live streams from there as well. So if you wanted to come along and watch, as we might say, the magic happen, or just see us bumbling our way through trying to work out how to use technology and stuff, that's always a bit of fun as well. So yeah, we're looking forward to plenty of beers and catching up with legends. And WA is the fantasy footy capital of Australia, so we're looking forward to being there again.
Yeah, I can't wait to be flying over there. I'll be there for 11 days, so looking forward to.
Have you got some footy booked in?
So no. Yeah, I do. I want to go probably the Freo game, this round 17, then the West Coast game in round 18, and probably hit up. I know that Tim and that at the Varsity Bar always hang out there, so probably head down there. Then got the 2 live shows with you boys, so looking forward to it, and looking forward to seeing all legends in Perth. But Warnie, where can if people? I'm sure everyone does, but if no one does, where can people follow you on the socials?
Warnie DT, the best place on Twitter. So yeah, fine there. And we've also got, like yours, pumping out some YouTube stuff too. If anyone's interested in some of our YouTube stuff, I'm doing a video on Fridays as well, having a look at my team. So that's something we want to try to do better of, because YouTube is a good platform to use. We've been doing that since 2007, and we still don't know what we're doing with it. So back in the day, our first videos that we actually did on YouTube, you're only allowed 10 minutes as a limit on that. So it's sort of evolved a long way from where that was back then. So we'd film some stuff, and it'd go for 11 minutes. We'd be trying to edit a minute out of it and all that sort of stuff to get it under the 10. But yeah, that's changed a lot. You could probably stream for days and days and days if you want it on YouTube these days.
Yeah, I think watch-alongs, mine go about 3 hours, so definitely can do long ones, that's for sure. But yeah, no, make sure you go and follow the DT Talk YouTube channel and check out the Warn Dogs video on the Fridays and all the other content that's pumped out on there. But Warnie, thanks for jumping on. It'd be good to catch up in a few weeks, and good luck for the rest of the buys,
I think
guys.
We're down to, I think it's 34 days when we're over in Perth, so it's getting pretty close, which is the nice countdown as a teacher. That's for our school holidays. That's why we can do it then. We're in school holidays, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, can't wait for that. So if you guys are tuning in here, make sure you head over to the watch along on YouTube, doing the watch along tonight. So we'll chat fantasy throughout the whole game. So make sure you go and tune into that. And if you're watching on YouTube, we'll just push you straight over to the watch along. So chat to you boys in a sec, and ladies, and whoever else is playing fantasy. So it'll be good chat. So thanks, Warnie, for jumping on. Thanks, Holmesy, from before, and thanks, Tim, as always. And we'll chat to you guys